here this session just to maybe a little bit shape up what I have written over there, because I discovered that I don't have a lot of examples, which is quite handy for the presentation. It's mainly the structure of the session itself, and then it mainly talks. And just I expect some questions from you, obviously, but if you give me an idea of what you would like to hear and what questions you have, it will help a lot for me to do the right session. So if you give me any idea of what's...
It was my idea to put this on the agenda because I just do not, I mean, PHP scares me. Every time I open it, file, I go, oh my god. Whereas CSS, I open it and go, okay, yeah, that's fine. It's familiar, I like it, I can think about it. So the reason I put it on the agenda was just, explain the chunks and say, this is a command if you want to do this, and the if and else commands and that kind of thing. Just give us a bit of a
syntaxes
to do in PHP.
What I'm looking for, and obviously there's an importance to PHP, so it's more a case of what are the end results of PHP in Joomla. So is it used to create components and modules, whatever, or is it just to help boost markup?
Great.
Or and then of course we're not going to walk away PHP experts in 1 hour, but the right direction after that in terms of PHP and Joomla, like what directions
Great.
after this.
What about basic scripts that make things easier to use, sort of like small things like the date at the bottom of the website, like echo date, echo year, rather than the every year change 2011 to 2012 and 2013. Just basic scripts to make things simpler.
Well, I think I don't have that really, actually, because I was thinking the same way as this gentleman actually said, because I didn't even hope to cover PHP, like in 1 hour session. It's actually 45 minutes, but still, I think it's quite important.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just need to stop your microphone. I apologise. We're just having problems with interference in the next one.
Is it better now? Do you hear me?
1 second. Yeah.
Okay. No?
Yeah.
Do you hear me now? Oh, okay. Well, let's start.
Can I just add one other thing, and it may not be in
Sure.
the questions you had. It's almost the control flow. How things happen from the start of the front end through to the PHP script. That's actually called in various places.
In Joomla? Do you want to know in Joomla in particular, or in PHP in general?
Okay. I'm actually more interested in the wider PHP general, because there's the pro and con, why PHP, why not PHP, but that's probably a separate debate. It's for this session, I think the control flow in the context of Joomla.
Okay.
Also, one other thing, I was thinking in terms of like with Java, there's lots of different frameworks, or which as a keyword that people could then go into. Are there frameworks that are very...
I'm really sorry, because something's going on here. It's just I don't really know what's going on. It's just I have nothing to do with that. And the voice is different, actually. Right. It's a really tricky session. Yeah, sorry. I don't know if you can repeat it.
Just basically keyword frameworks. Like, is there a framework or something that is common? That's because PHP is a big animal, and like JavaScript or whatever. I imagine there's different frameworks that there's Zend or whatever, or maybe again that's more to do with the direction of where PHP, to stay within, learn PHP as close to Joomla as possible in its application. So are there any frameworks that you can then make sure
What
yeah.
to learn it? It's a good starting point to learn it. If
Right,
you don't know anything about it, that's what I would be curious.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good overview.
Yeah.
To decide what can I do myself, or when do I have to hire somebody to do it, or outsource it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about when preparing this session. Actually, I really wanted to touch the basics, just the foundation, because I believe a lot of people, actually, that's our experience as well. A lot of people send us different requests for doing very easy and very simple things with the templates and modules and stuff like that. And I think everybody would feel very comfortable if people can just open the right file, just look through, and at least make sure they don't do something really bad in the code, just to understand what is there. Of course, there are different levels. I need my screen. Okay.
I'll go next door.
They're aware that the screens are coming
They're
from a
fixing
different
it.
room. Yeah, I think they're currently watching your presentation next door.
Are they?
Oh, really?
Is it because we have the 2 screens for freelancers?
I think so. They're trying to do it. They're trying to resolve it at the moment. So it's not all our fault.
Sorry, guys, not my fault. Well, that's
Just blame Microsoft. That's fine. Yeah, scapegoat.
Start talking about
Very funny.
yeah. Well, actually, I really need slides just because like I really imagined it to be a little bit different. Like I'm not that nervous as I was at my first session, but still, like it's a little bit different new experience. And I put in some quiz. Sorry, guys, it's really hard to.
Microsoft, you know what I mean? You go to the top.
Well, actually, let me read that. I don't know if it works, if it's gonna work, but still.
Yeah, just read.
Yeah. Well, just I have this quiz actually, and to start with the basics, I would really suggest to start with the question: what does PHP stand for? It's quite obvious. But do you guys know what PHP is?
No.
Any ideas? Actually, I have some options here just to help you to guess what it is. The first option is partnership for peace, people helping people, power hybrid package, or hypertext processor. Which one is correct? The last one. Yeah. Well, yeah, but like I had an experience interviewing the guy for a job, and I asked him what HTML is, and he didn't know. So it's kind of weird, Yeah. The next question, what is PHP? It's more advanced, a little bit more advanced, but still. PHP is a server-side scripting language. PHP supports many databases. PHP is an open source software, and PHP is free to download and use.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Say, don't want to ruin your presentation. If you could just stop for 2 minutes. We just have to do the partition so that your screen will come up. And then you
That would be great. That would be great.
Okay, could be 1 minute, okay.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Sorry about this.
pill that's from that side of the room, so it should be coming through your system.
Okay. But once this is closed, once this final
Yeah.
panel's going.
Okay, I'm tapping that.
Okay.
And you're not getting anything?
No.
Good.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is it picking up?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'll just go on. Yep, okay. So, sorry guys, I'll continue. What is PHP? Actually, the four options here. PHP is a server-side scripting language. PHP supports many databases. PHP is an open source software. PHP is free to download and use.
Everything.
All of them, yeah, that's correct. Actually, it's very important to know that PHP is a server-side scripting language, just because it's better for you to understand that it works on server. It can't work without a server. It doesn't matter if it's localhost, if it's real server, which is remote, but you still need a server to run PHP. PHP supports many databases. MySQL is the most popular one, but basically you can make it work with very many databases. I won't list all of them just because it makes no sense, but MySQL is a free database, and actually that's why it's the best use for the PHP to make it work with MySQL. PHP is an open software, and you should look for php.net website just to check for updates, download latest versions. So check what's new. I think the latest version is 5.3.8, was released a month ago.
Not only if you're hosting your own server there that you want to do that, or
Well, if you have your local host, it's basically a situation when you have a server installed on your computer. And come again?
like WAN. But
Well-
I'm talking about when you're actually hosting live. Is that something that you want them to
No, you may need to update your PHP version on your local machine as well. So if you know how to do that, it's quite convenient actually, and there are a lot of different packages that allows you to have Apache set up along with MySQL and PHP quite easily, and you will be able, actually that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. Actually, I will try to set up a local server on my computer, so I'll be able to show how PHP works for real, because otherwise I can give you only the listings. Sorry. Oh, fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So, there we go. Yeah. Well, victory. So php.net is the place where you would go for the documentation, different definitions of different processes, best practices. It's a really good site, actually, very well maintained. It has a great search base, and you can basically type in the function you're looking for, and it will give you a list of functions that are related to, and examples and different comments. Well, very helpful. Just take advantage of open source. And PHP is free. That's why it's so popular.
Excuse me. Can you
Yep.
say what is the fundamental feature, characteristic, whatever that makes it a server side? other than that, it obviously is.
Well, server-side is just the design of the language itself. I mean, like it's just how it's built. It's just the architecture. But if I understand your question correctly, what makes PHP stand?
There are many scripting languages, lots of them, going back over many years. And what is it about PHP that has made it the de facto dominant?
I would name.
What characteristic?
Thank you for the question. Actually, I think the learning curve is quite an important characteristic because it's quite simple language to understand and learn, and it's designed quite well, and it's really easy to learn it. That's why I'm gonna show you a little bit later an example of what PHP file is, and all you need afterwards, basically, you can just go to php.net, find the function you're looking for to implement your needs, and you will be able to do that. You don't need to spend ages, starting different courses and do stuff like that. You can learn it yourself. And basically, the next question is not this one, in one. Well, this is quite critical information. When was PHP designed? Well, there are 4 options here, but everybody knows it was 1994. Just general information, I think will be helpful. Not quite a new language. Who designed PHP? That's really hard to guess, but probably the one guy you don't know is Rasmus Lerdorf. Yeah, well, nice guy. Actually, he designed PHP, modified Perl language, and actually it was called personal homepage at the beginning. And afterwards, 2 smart guys contributed to the language itself, and it was released as PHP. I guess it was version 3 then, and from that time it became very popular, but it was some time later. But originally it was designed, actually part of an answer to your question about what makes PHP stand out, of why it can be better than other scripting languages. It was designed to do the personal homepage. So actually, the idea of the language probably was to make it so easy that you can, write your personal homepage, and then it developed into a bigger system. And they added classes and different things, and you can build. So Joomla is quite a complicated system nowadays. It has MVC and different, quite advanced things implemented into the system, and it's all on PHP. So
sorry, it actually helps that you mentioned it was based on Perl, because I didn't know that. And it's just that I know there were lots of other predecessor scripting languages that I just wondered why PHP. But if it was based on those, fine.
Okay. You're welcome.
Before you move on then, what's the difference between PHP and Python, without too great a detail?
PHP and what?
Python.
Python.
So
Perl.
No.
Was it Python?
Python and PHP.
I don't really know. I'm not an expert. Sorry. Yeah, but I think you can just search the net. So, but does it help you get any further in using PHP? I mean, this knowledge? Apparently not, but it's quite helpful. I mean, at least the second session, what PHP is, it helps to understand the foundation, but you may need this only to tell the kids, or just if you happen to do the introduction to PHP session. But still, so first application. Let's go straight to the topic. First application. So you can't build your first application if you don't have a server. It doesn't matter what server you have. You just need a server, because PHP and server, it's something that always work together. So if you have PHP, it can be run as a separate application. It can be on your iPhone or something. Well, unless it is some kind of a web server or something. But you need a server to install PHP. So basically, that says in the second point, install your PHP. It's quite a tricky thing to do if you're not a server administrator, but the easiest solution, you just get a hosting. With all that installed, you just have your MySQL database, latest PHP installed, all things configured, because server administrating is it's a huge topic, and you can learn a lot about this, different features, different things. Create some PHP file. So basically, PHP is a text file. It's just a plain text. Just the same way you create any text file, you create PHP, and you just add PHP at the end. So that makes, not quite, but it's a beginning of your first PHP application. Write your code. So, I'll show you a little example a little bit later, but basically you just need to put some code that is known as PHP. There are a lot of different rules, but major rules are very simple, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. So then you will have to upload your file to the server and basically just execute the file by typing in the URL in the browser window. So for instance, if you have a domain name called mydomainname.com and you upload your PHP file in the root directory, you just need to type in mydomain.com/indexphp and the file will be executed. So that's the idea. Well, I wrote here about security, just don't even remember what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, but that's important. Just remember about it. Security is always important. So here's an example. PHP file, it's very simple. I don't have anything to show but my fingers. So PHP file always starts with the beginning tag. It's always like this. There is another called short form of opening tag, which is just the first two signs here without PHP. Oh, thank you very much. So this is opening tag, and the short form is just the question mark and this sign and no PHP. I would personally do not recommend you to use this form of defining PHP code, because you will have a lot of problems with that. It's a server configuration, and very often it's turned off, and if application was written with opening tag being just short tag without PHP, other server won't be able to render the code properly. It just won't understand that it's PHP code. So use the full opening tag, just PHP. So at the end, you always put question mark and the greater sign. So here goes some comments. Go here. There are two types of writing your comments. I start with comments because it's quite good to remember about comments in your files. It makes it more helpful for people just to read those files. If you use it in open source Word, there is a high probability that people would like to know what you were trying to achieve and how you really implemented what you have. So if you have big comment, and actually most of Joomla files has this part in them, but this is just the meta information, just additional information, just the release package and stuff like that, but it's quite important for different purposes. So this is the big comment. If you have one line comment, you just can comment with 2 slashes and it will work as well. So if you put 2 slashes at the beginning of each of this line, that will be quite the same. So it's just up to you. So here's the first and the most popular function you would use. It's actually echo. Echo is the function that shows string, whatever it is. It actually casts the type of input into the string anyway, if it's string. But, well, it's not as easy as that, but if you have a string here and you have echo command, it will be just displayed on the screen. So if you have your index.php file and it looks like that, and you just have your mydomain.com/hello.jduk.php and you execute this file on your server, you will just have this displayed on your screen. So it's very simple, very easy. And all PHP applications are like that. I mean, like, it's very easy, really, but the more you know, the more you learn different functions and different programming patterns. It really depends on how deep you want to go into the language, just because it's really a big, massive topic, and you can do a lot of things in that, but you just need to learn more functions and you'll be able to write anything you need to. So hello Joomla DUK 2011 people, that's what you will see. But if you want to add some design to this page, it will look like that. So we have the same piece of PHP file. I commented, I closed the PHP piece here just because those comments are rendered as PHP, and this is just a pure HTML file. It's quite important to understand that eventually when you run PHP file, and after it is rendered, it's just a plain HTML file. So it's never a PHP file. So when you see it on the screen, it's always just a pure HTML file. It doesn't have any code in it. Yes?
So that HTML line will start with the dot type then?
Yeah. Well, I put 3 dots here just because I didn't write the whole thing, but it's just proper HTML definition here, and you have the title tag and the head tag actually should be there in the first place, and then title inside. You have the whole structure of proper HTML document, and this is how you use PHP. You basically pick the places where you want to show different things, and you just do this part of code inside the application as well.
So you don't have one file with all the PHP, like you have a file with all the CSS in it. The PHP is within the HTML.
Well, basically yes and no. You should have PHP file for PHP code to be rendered, because if you call it HTML, it won't be rendered, because the server knows that PHP file has PHP extension. So if it's HTML, it won't be rendered, but it will just display on the screen as it's typed here. But if you call it PHP file and you execute, eventually you will get HTML, just pure HTML. But this code will be substituted with just this line. So you will get just H1 with color, with some alignment, with the body background set, and it will be just, like, I'll add a little more design to the output. And very often you will see very little PHP insertions in the code. So basically it's HTML page, and only very little pieces of HTML is injected in the code. This is the best example is Joomla template. So if you take a look at the index file, it's probably the most popular file to look at, actually, because templates is something that always changes, and people really want to change different things. But the idea is that when you write something here, it's just either very simple or very complicated, and then it's hidden inside the application itself. And when you call it here, it's just one function. So you don't write a lot of code in your HTML file. So when it comes to programming, you have a group, just like Joomla core, a group of big files which has this extended logic and all that stuff, connection to the database and all other things you don't know and you don't really need to care about, but you can still use the advantage of the language installed on the web server and the system being written on it, just to show little bits of information you really need to show, or just, change it the way you want it to change. So that's very important to understand that, and to know actually that PHP has a class. Well, class is very important thing to understand just because Joomla uses a lot of different classes. The definition of a class is a collection of variables and functions working with these variables. So basically it's an object. So when you think of class, you can think of some object, and we will see further that Joomla classes, they are basically objects. And if you want to work with some of those objects, you will probably find same class declared in Joomla libraries, and you just need to use it. And just to find out what methods, which is functions, they have. Does it make sense so far? Well, it's a little bit more complicated, but it's not really advanced. I mean, like, this is different construction. You probably never seen that before. You don't probably have any idea how it works, but it's quite simple. So if it's a card, right? So we can declare a class that has some items, and the functions can be just add item should be, it's spelled wrong, and delete item. Sorry, it's just a bad slide. I really had to fix it. So, well, just those functions are very basic. So they describe how object works in the environment. And well, we're describing an object. We just set those different parameters as variables. So, for instance, if we describe this table, we will take the color, which will be definitely parameter, and we will take the height and the square and whatever we want to, whatever we need in this application, we will define here as variables. And functions basically are the things that we can do with this table. We can move it some way around. We can turn it upside down and things like that. And there'll be a function called turn the table upside down. And this part is called parameters that you put to the function when you use it. So basically, if this is a function, move the table, and you want to move it 50 meters left side, you should pass two parameters, 50 centimeters and left side. And then the code will know what to do with this object. And it will change those values. For instance, if you want to move the table, we really need to know where the table resides every minute. So we need to have coordinates here, so we can change them. And then we can use this method to move the table. It's just an example from my head. I don't know if it's valid, but still, it just describe the idea of the class, of PHP class. So
you define the class twice in different places, and they kind of conflict with each other.
Yeah, there will be conflict. So, but probably it will be conflict on execution of the code, because the system should say you that it's not possible to have two declarations of the same class. So if you want really to describe different objects, you need to have at least some difference, at least object 1, object 2. So they can't be the same classes. Well, it's...
If they conflict, does one take priority over the other, or it just doesn't work?
It just doesn't work. Okay. It gives an error, so it won't be executed. You will just see a warning or just a fatal error in your browser.
The question I asked, because if let's say you are using different extensions and different this and that, you may not know whether somebody else has defined the same sort of class somewhere else. Could they then start to step on each other's toe effectively?
Thank you for your question. It's a good question, actually. It's a good question, but the first thing you will see if you declare the same class, you will actually see this fatal error saying that you implemented the same class twice. The other question is how to find another class, but it's not really hard to do, because the file you have, actually it will have everything it uses in most cases. It's a little bit more harder in Joomla just because it's a big framework and a lot of libraries are loaded at different levels, and you don't really know everything what's going on if you just look at template file, just because it's in a very different place and it's processed beyond the logics of the particular page, which is built through different places, because the system calls main file, which actually calls different files to render all the areas implemented in the template. It needs to build a menu, it needs to build modulus, it needs to build a component, it needs to build the Ceph link. It needs to do everything, and then it passes to the template, and from the template you can see that. But if you want to add some class to Joomla, it's quite a tricky thing to do because you need to be really, really good in programming. It's not in this session, I guess. But if you write some very simple application, you will be able to easily recognize where the place where you have problems. And if you write the whole code, you will be able to see, what libraries you include in your code and where possible problem can be. So it's very logical. It's not something tricky really. So it's just like opening tag and ending tag and some functions between them. So you have variables which you work with just because you have some objects and you do something with them. That's why you need functions.
So is the variable like the description of the noun?
Yeah, exactly.
And the function is what you want to do to the noun?
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is, well, the best association I probably can give. So here's most commonly used PHP classes. Well, at least something you can see in index PHP and template. Depends on how complicated it is. So gtext. Gtext is a class, and why you may want to use it just because it helps you with translations. So that's why you will see in template gtext. I would type the declaration, but I think it would be better to do at the workshop tomorrow. If somebody would like to do that, you are invited, guys. So it will be really easy to do that, and I will just finish the theoretical part of this session. So gtext helps with translations. It's really critical, especially with this multilingual environment that Joomla is in. And you can basically type in text as you want to. You can just type in English words, whatever words you use. Just don't forget to save an UTF-8 encoding, because otherwise it will get messed up and won't show on the page in the proper language. But it's much, much better to use gtext and show the code through gtext, because this class was designed to help with translations. So if it's done through gtext, there is a way to translate the text into different languages, and you can automatically switch it on the front end, and it will pick up from there. gRequest. That's another big class. Actually, it deals with the information that comes from users. So everything that user submits by clicking on link or filling the form, it actually goes to GET or POST request. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with GET POST requests, but you don't really need to know the difference at the moment. You just can think of this as information that comes from user, and gRequest helps to get this information from different variables and process them in some way. A good way to use gRequest actually can be if you need to do something on template on particular page, you can just use this class to calculate some variables. For instance, you can get the name of the component that is shown on this page, or the menu ID, which is quite critical part of building page in Joomla. And actually, almost everything is hooked up to menu IDs, and it's how modules appear on the page. So they are all assigned to particular menu item. So if you know some menu item, you can do it this way. But sometimes, well, if you use some badly coded extensions and they don't have different IDs for different parts, you can actually find another way to locate particular page through the template. You can actually use gRequests and read the variables that are passed from user and find those which you need to define this particular page and show or hide some particular piece of template on that page. For instance, if you want some banner to show on this page and hide on different page, you can just add this condition. You can just type if condition and the other part of the text in between, and it will do the job. Again, it would be great to have examples. I don't have them, so I'm not gonna type in at the moment, but we can do that tomorrow. So just if you are interested in this part, just note it down and ask me tomorrow. I'll be more than happy to answer. GArray helper, it's actually a library that class, to be correct, that helps with arrays. Arrays is a very, very wide used variable, type of variables in PHP, because it's something, I would say, in between variable and a class. A class, which is an object, it's a big object, but usually arrays are used to pass a lot of information, so just like a list of different things that go as one variable. And this class helps by different methods which are implemented within this class to manage those arrays. Well, I know it may sound as Chinese for the introduction session, but still, it's just helpful class. Just pay attention to it. Just ask your questions if you're interested after I finish. So take the most you can from this session. GUI class, it's very important for the links. Actually, everything you can think of about the links, it's GUI related. You can get your current location on the page. For instance, if you want to show user where he is at the moment, you can just really use one of those methods of this class, and you will be able to show your template what URL is typed in the browser window at the moment. So, well, it's really good for different purposes, for the statistics. Also, if you need to load some image, you would probably use GUI just to get the root of the site, and we'll add relative root of the image, which is somewhere inside the template. So this is how it is used. GHTML class. Well, this class actually is responsible for all the controls that you see on the site. So all the forms, text boxes, buttons, buttons, no, it's not covered by GHTML, but drop downs, a lot of different dates. It's something that is implemented in Joomla, and you can use this class to use the same style for all the elements across your component, application, template, whatever you're using. Gmenu. Well, menu is the main part of, it's a glue of Joomla page. And everything that is menu related is in this class. It's the object that actually reflects the state of the menu. It knows what the menu is, what the structure is, which menu item is active, which ID is currently selected. Just everything you may think of, it's in Gmenu. Well, maybe not everything, but you should look up there first. grouter. It's quite an important part because ceph links is a very good thing to have, It's very user-friendly, and if you want to build a good-looking CF link, you should use grouter to explain your application how to build the link. So again, it's just a set of different functions that you call in different places to structure the link and eventually show to the user. And then it happens vice versa. When user clicks some link, the application gets the link. It breaks it down into different parts and analyzes those parts with a lot of logic that is actually built into the core of Joomla, and understands what's going on and what component to call, what component to show on the page. So it's very logical. Again, it's not really complicated. Just because you've never done that, it's just like that. So when you see how it works, it's not that difficult. You just need to learn the syntax to be a little bit more advanced. But this is just a good reference to know what to look for if you want to add something specific, because in most cases, for the beginners, it's good to use this echo thing and just understand how PHP syntax is defined. So if you see those tags, you should just understand that you start PHP with the sign I showed before. You just put PHP in different parts of your HTML page, and don't forget to call it PHP file. So, and it gets rendered.
Can you tell me whether you can read more about what they do and how they do it?
The best way just to go to docs.joomla.org. That's official Joomla documentation site, and you can just get all the methods. Actually, I had an idea of showing you different methods for different classes, but I just didn't think it would work this way, just because, you know, like, it's probably a good topic to cover tomorrow, but I don't think it's gonna help at the moment. So I really want you to focus on general idea, just the concept, because it's really easy to read. So the main thing you want when you start learning the language, actually there are two things. You want to understand what's written, and you want to know how to write, to add, to change something, and not to break the whole page. That's the most critical.
Sorry.
Yep.
You keep mentioning tomorrow, but I'm looking here. I don't see the time and the time slot or your name or tomorrow.
We'll have.
The agenda is not set in stone. Those are ideas that we had as a team. There are plenty more sessions that are going to happen tomorrow.
Okay.
Don't worry if it's not on the agenda.
Brilliant.
Oh, it's okay. So, Paresh,
Sorry.
any questions?
I was going to ask, would you be able to show an example of this class, any of these classes being used?
Do you want me to open a text editor and type in something to show how it works, or just open some template page and show the pieces? What you would like me to do? I can do that.
Just like a 2-line example.
I think if you show it
before.
I think if you show it, then it's just showing an application of it in real.
Let me do that.
In real world. You don't need to just create something. Just look at our current template, maybe bees or something.
Oh, it's a good idea actually. I wanted to add a slide, but I didn't do that.
And again, one question that was asked earlier, I think you asked earlier, some kind of how the whole journey takes place from the moment a user types something and PHP and HTML server, all of those things, the whole like round trip.
Yeah. Process.
Here we go. Here is standard index PHP file of standard Joomla template. So we can just go through that and analyze what's written here. So you can notice that GHTML class is used here. It's basically used to add behavior framework, which is basically mood tools. which is called in this template, so that it just adds the library in the template. So just
in the same way you would declare jQuery or something. Is it declaring?
No. Just MooTools is built into the Joomla. You don't use this for jQuery. So if you want to add jQuery, you can use GHTML, and you just need to use different method to add JavaScript to the page.
Okay,
this is how you do.
So if it's not declaring MooTools, then what? So what is that line for then? 22. What does it do? Why would someone write that?
Just to add MooTools to the page. So
if it's already built in, then why would you need to write that?
It's built-in Joomla system. I mean, like it's native, and that means that you can call it through this class. You won't be able to call jQuery through this. Actually, you can call MooTools by adding JavaScript and just assigning it as you usually do that. But you can do that through a Joomla class, which hasn't already been built to help with that.
So that's a call function. It's calling MooTools.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it does. Well, but it's short, like it's handy because you can write a very short line and you have it, like called. So they are parameters. They're different just parameters that you use in template. And this is basically how you get those parameters. And this is another class that is defined for template. And it actually gets different parameters from template ini file. So let me scroll down to find gtext, because it's normally, oops.
So if you want to change those parameters, you just change the ini file.
Come again?
If you want to change those parameters, like the color or something.
Right, you can change it here. You can just type in the proper value here. You just can ignore this string. If you, for instance, want to change something and you don't really want to go to template, or for instance, if you're designing site for your client and the design is based on some standard template and you don't really people want to use those parameters, you can just type values in here, and they will never be changed. They will always stay like that.
So if you wanted to change the logo to another file, you just put the file URL where it says logo.
Yep. So you just put this parameter here, but you don't really know what the parameter is. If you know for sure what it is, because it can be just the name of the page, not the whole URL. Because let's find where the logo is. I think it should be somewhere here. It's logo header, logo, and here's logo. And it says basically, if we have logo defined, so if it's not null, then it shows logo. But here, it actually gets the base URL, the root of the site, and actually adds logo from here. So if you type in the whole URL there, it will has the whole URL, then slash, then again the name of the logo. Well, actually it will have this part, slash, and the whole URL again. So it will be the wrong link. That's why you just need to check.
And those links are stored within the ini file?
Yes. Well, in this particular case,
yes.
I don't try to explain how to use this template. I'm just showing examples of using PHP. So this is if construction. This is one way of using it. You can just put the sign and finish it with and if. The other way to do that is just to open the bracket here and close it here. But this is just about syntaxes. You can look it up on php.net. It's not anything tricky, so very easy, very simple. You can read it easily, but the main thing you just need to understand, this is a PHP code, and the beauty of this part is that if you don't have logo, this part won't be displayed. It won't be displayed at all. No image tag will be displayed. And that's what I was talking about with that example with the banner, just because if you don't want banner to show up, you use something like this. And if the page is wrong, it won't be shown at all. it doesn't mean it will show blank banner, but it won't be shown at all. So you can hide particular parts of the template and show the other.
So you don't have to have an else if the else is nothing.
Well, else means all other cases. For instance, if you have some particular terms, you write those terms here, and they can be more, like advanced rather than just logo. But if it's not the case, then everything that is in else executed.
But can I just say, I know this is very simplistic, but it's really just a HTML file, and all the PHP is doing is generating dynamic HTML.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just you could have had a static page, and it wouldn't allow that flexibility.
That's probably the best definition. Yeah, well, that's the best you can explain it, actually. So it adds dynamic to the static HTML page. So if you want something to get from the database and show it on the page just online, that's the only way to do it. Just you need some pieces that are dynamic, and actually that's what PHP does.
So the UNI file that it's pointed to, who writes the UNI file, and is that like the XML? Is that like the XML structure that declares?
Well, actually, that's the structure of template system. It's a little bit more advanced question. I can answer you in person, but the short answer is that this particular file is just getting data from different files, and this was an example, and just I know that it's stored in any file. So here's an example of using gtext, and this is the constant. It's called language constant, which makes no sense, but when you put it to the language file and write equals and then write something sensible that should be shown to the end user, and it is translated in different languages, you will get it rendered differently for different users. That's the advantage of using gtext and using it.
So you've got one piece of code, but then you've got 7 language files, and that one piece of code in all 7.
And you don't have to change.
French or, yeah.
Right.
So you have that on there 7 times.
Yeah, you just edit those language files and it works.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So, sorry. So, here's basically the last slide I have, and actually it says where you can use basic PHP knowledge. So if you understand something about the language, at least you can ask a question, which is a great start. I guess if you have an idea of how it works and what's the idea about the language itself, you can ask different questions and get different answers, and this is the way you learn about this. You can understand the code, just books, forums, whatever people discuss, and you just understand why it is written this way. And again, the very basic and very important part of PHP language, it's just the syntax, how it's written, because it's quite self-explanatory. And if you don't find any answers, you just need to go to php.net, look up what the function does, and it will explain you what it is. All the rest is probably programming related. So it's probably about learning how to convert real-life objects into the code. It's more of a logical thinking. It's not about learning the language. So when you know how to do something, it's really easy to do. Just know how to write it, how to code it, and that's it. So read the code, tweak templates. That's what we'll talk about. Tune models. It's quite basic. If you have basic knowledge of PHP, you can really tweak modules just because it's very easy. They are they are not too sophisticated, and you can alter different parameters with no high risk, because in the components it has model, especially in Joomla 1.7, and you need to be quite advanced in programming to understand how the whole system works. So I wouldn't recommend you to alter any files in the component, but modules is something you can take a look at. And actually, the beauty of Joomla and templating system is that they have HTML folder within the template itself, and actually you can redefine different views. So basically, if you know that, I don't know, not really. Anybody? Okay. So modules is something that you can look at, and well, in most cases, you won't have any problems to slightly change different things in the module. You can also alter component views if you know what it is and where they reside. It's really easy. It's very similar to templates. It's just literally the same, but it's different approach, different piece of code, different way of how it is rendered, but still it's HTML code with PHP parts. So if you don't change something you don't know and you just add some things, I think you'll be able to do that easily. So component views are quite safe to work with. Go to the next level means just keep on your education in PHP. Just it really depends on how deep you want to go into that. So it's a good, just the guy left, but he asked a good question about different examples, and it's probably a very good way to educate in this way. So if you just do different examples, you can look it up on the net, you can ask your friends, you can just read another application and see how it is implemented in somebody else's code. And you can just replicate the same situation. It's a good way to learn new features, how it works. And after it's done, you will understand how it works even better. And this is a great way to, yes, your question.
I used to work with PHP 4, something that I can't understand in PHP 5, the matter of class and extension. PHP has something called PEM, which is extension application repository. So I don't understand, is it in 5, is it completely object-oriented, is it class-based, or you can use it still like inherited from PHP 4?
If you don't mind, I would answer this question personally, just because it's not in the time frame of the session, and I just saw the girl who just looked into the auditorium just this time. I'm sorry that we were delayed. Again, it's...
No, you're okay actually.
Yeah, so...
You've got another 5 minutes for questions and answers.
Okay. But I would answer your question personally, if you don't mind, okay?
Okay.
Yes?
Just quick, it's probably a question for tomorrow actually, but my main concern really is being able to actually find any areas of PHP code that could present a security issue. Is that something that's easy to grasp on? In other words, poorly written code that could allow for code injection and other security issues?
Well, it's a good question. It's a good question, but the only thing I can think of right away is that when people, write something insecure, especially if they are hackers, very advanced people in what they do, they try to somehow hide these pieces of code. And basically, if you see something written in hex format, this is probably a part of something insecure in the code. This is the only thing I can think of, but in all other cases you won't be able to tell where the difference is if you don't understand the whole concept of what's going on.
Right.
So,
excuse me.
Yes.
Do you, when you're writing, when you're coding, do you just use your text editor, or are there any tools that you use to make life simple to do that?
We use Eclipse. That's a great tool actually, and it has built-in highlighter. It actually helps a lot with PHP highlighting, so it does the job. But
you said again, what tool did you say?
Eclipse. Yep. It's actually free and open source.
Nice. Is there anything else that you use as well? Coda? Is Coda good for that?
Not really, just Eclipse and extensions. That's, well, we use SVN. It's a great tool, but it's more for tracking versions of the code rather than helping with writing.
And someone who's just mentioned NetBeans, how can you just sort of position Eclipse vis-a-vis NetBeans?
What's the other name of the system?
NetBeans.
Never heard of that. Can't really compare. Can't really compare.
Cool.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Well, what I'll do tomorrow, when I do my intro tomorrow morning, I'll just say to everybody, look, these are the options we've got, these are the kind of timings, and we can get together for another session tomorrow. So.
Will there be a mail out?
Thank you very much.
Will there be a mail out, or will it be when we turn up?
Will there be a mail out? No, it'll be when you turn up. Thank you, Sergey.
Yeah, thank you.